Latin, he would be described as rara avis, a rare bird, one who is humble in spite of his success.
My dad is one of the most logical and articulate individuals I've ever met, and I think that is something that I have spent my whole life trying to emulate.
Mr. Lalla, like Sir Solomon Hochoy, had come from very humble rural beginnings, and that gave to Hochoy and to Lalla a kind of humility.
With very humble beginnings growing up in his beloved Dow village of California, central Trinidad, Kenneth Lalla, attorney at law, rising above many obstacles and meeting every challenge of his life with bravery and confidence, goes on to prove that with faith in oneself and in the Creator, one can achieve great things.
I had no mother, and my father's from India. I lived in a grass house, slept on a mud floor, and I had to earn my living in a sugar estate as a child laborer. When I was leaving to go to England, I had no money. I didn't know where I was going. But I had an innate drive. I wanted to be something, although I came from the cane fields. I formed a club in Dow Village, my village, California, called the California Literary and Dramatic Club. It is still existing after 60 years.
When he became educated, when he attended school, he passed his exams, he went on to study law, he wanted to impart his knowledge to the boys that he left behind, the boys that grew up with him, who were working in the cane fields, who were themselves perhaps unable to attend school, and his greatest desire was to impart the English language.
I gave free education to the illiterates. And the club, I put on the play, stage play of Abraham Lincoln. And I took illiterates to put them on the stage. After I'd been educating them, they became semi-literate. The play was such a success that the people in Tonopuna heard of it, and we staged the play in the Palladium Cinema. When I was leaving the club, I told them, I'm leaving. They were fearful. You're going abroad, we know you will not come back. 2, we know that if you come back, you wouldn't be coming back single. And I suggested that I told them, listen, I am leaving you, and I give you 3 promises. I will return. 2, I'll return single. 3, I am coming back to work for you, to continue this drive to uplift, this forward drive to help the people.
Our house is almost like a community center. There wasn't a point in time when somebody was not ringing the doorbell, wanting to see my dad, people visiting. And in those days, life was so much more comfortable that you weren't afraid of who was coming to your gate. So it could be anybody coming, and you were willing to welcome them in. We've been part of my dad's public life from childhood. We've pretty much been to many of the events that he's gone to. We've been a part of his life publicly. I recall as a child, there were so many major events in his life that we were there with him, celebrating or supporting.
Mr. Lalla, like Sir Solomon Hochoy, had come from very humble rural beginnings, and that gave to Hochoy and to Lalla a kind of humility, a kind of humbleness, a kind of rural honesty. These were 2, Hochoy and Lalla, 2 extremely honest persons. So in one sense, he would have replicated, he would have lived the kind of life and given the kind of humble yet strong leadership that Hochoy gave. And at the same time, being a profound legal mind like Robinson, he would have ensured the proper governance, the proper running of the state, because he was fully apprised of the law. He had spent decades of his life in practicing law. Then he had spent a period of time in the legislature making laws. So one who is practicing, one who is making laws, to my mind, would have been ideal to be in the position of President of Trinidad and Tobago, where, as I said, on the one hand, his humility, his honesty, his integrity, and on the other hand, combined with his knowledge of the law, I think he would have been an excellent, very exemplary head of state.
I think I was the first member of Parliament at that time to establish a constituency office at my own expense. And the concept behind that was that I did indicate to the people during my political campaigns that they did not have to search for me as they had to do with previous members of Parliament. They will be able to find me at my office twice per week. And there I would deal with whatever problems they had. And that I did.
Mr. Kenneth Lalla was right at home. He was not like fish out of water. He was very much at home in the Parliament because as a lawyer, as a legal person, this was the ideal forum for him to go and now participate in the creation of the law. In his prior work as a lawyer, his interpretation was really interpreting the law and defending or prosecuting in accordance with the law of the country. But with that kind of experience, he was ideally suited to go into the Parliament and now create law.
I also advocated the construction of a hall of justice. At that time, the law courts were housed in the Red House. And the Red House had proven to be rather inadequate for accommodating the judiciary. And because of the growth of litigation and what have you, it was indeed one of the urgent matters that I thought government should address. And I think government did go along with me as well. And subsequently we did have a Hall of Justice.
I cannot imagine any development of a parliamentary democracy without an office of Director of Public Prosecution, and a Hall of Justice is a structure that was long overdue. And I am glad that Kenneth Lalla, who is now Senior Counsel, made a substantive contribution towards the establishment of these institutions.
Having influenced significant changes that gave birth to important institutions, Kenneth Lalla went on to serve as Vice President and President of the Bar Association of Trinidad and Tobago. He continued his work in teaching at the Hugh Wooding Law School and at the University of the West Indies. In 1981, he was called upon to serve as a temporary judge of the High Court of Trinidad and Tobago. He became the director and the chairman of the Legal Aid and Advisory Authority during the period 1982 to 1986 and served as a member of the board of directors of the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago.
One of the first things I did, I found people who had to benefit from legal aid because it was just a new structure, a new mechanism to assist the poor. People had to come from south or way down south, east, Tobago to Trinidad to seek legal aid. And my first effort was to establish an office in south, in San Fernando, so that people in the central and south could access legal aid in San Fernando. And I also established a system in Tobago whereby the legal aid visited Tobago every month, and that people did not have to travel to Trinidad to seek legal aid. I was about to establish legal aid office in Arima when the law school approached me and told me, the principal, that they had a legal aid clinic at the law school, but the clinic was not getting clients, so that student lawyers weren't able to have the practical experiences in respect of people's problems, legal problems. And instead of putting a law office, a legal aid office in Arima, I placed that office in the law school.
His law was a jumping off point, I think, for so many other things. He became director of legal aid, the Legal Aid and Advisory Authority, He sat as a temporary judge of the High Court, and he sat on several commissions of inquiry. He was a director of the Central Bank. In more recent times, he served as the chairman of the Public Service Commission and the Police Service Commission, a member of the Judicial and Legal Service Commission. So those are they're milestones in his life, and it really signifies the contribution that he has made to Trinidad and Tobago.
And so I have given my services at all these levels, and my last contribution when I left the commissions was to publish a book on the public service and service commissions, which are at the moment being used in the courts, being used by permanent secretaries and public officers, and being used in the Caribbean and by the university as well.
Even as he makes the statement that he has come to the end of his journey, one cannot help but acknowledge that Kenneth Lalla still has much to do. His dedication and commitment to serving the people of his country propels him to forge ahead with new ideas, encouraging, inspiring, and uplifting the lives of many.
One of the things that I admire the most about my dad is the way in which he's able to communicate with people, whether you're the man on the street or president of a country. He has a certain charm about him. He has an eloquence which I hope that I am able to achieve one day. He is incredibly articulate. But I think it's the man as a person that has inspired me and is what I want to aspire to be.
In my own opinion, Mr. Lalla continues to play a very important role in guiding, in shaping public opinion, in determining the whole course of our democracy in this age of independence.
In so many aspects of our country, we need to pull ourselves up, and I think people like Kenneth Lalla will help in many ways to add dignity to our life, to bring us back to humility, and to erase any temptation to arrogance and for the lust of power. We need people like Kenneth Lalla to live simple life of service, selfless service. I am proud to have known him and to be his friend.